Welcome everybody to episode 162 of the Startup Show. Today I'm here at the offices of Xatena and I'm talking to the CEO and co-founder Andreas. And we are talking about how consulting can help in the entrepreneurial journey, but we also talk about Xatena and what they do in the healthcare sector. And last but not least, we talk about why you should do it as an entrepreneur and what his advice is to get started. Make sure to stay tuned for the whole video. Welcome everybody to episode 162 of the Startup Show. Today I'm here in Zurich at the offices of Xatena. I'm very excited to speak to the CEO and co-founder of Xatena. Andreas, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cedric, very much for hosting.
Andreas, as you know, we are always starting with understanding who you are and giving you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to my audience. Give my audience a 1-minute introduction about who you are.
Thank you very much, Cedric. As I've been introduced, my name is Andreas Heizmann. I'm the CEO of Xatena, the startup we're talking about later, I guess.
Yes.
And myself, I'm Swiss, coming from here, 38 in age, master University of Zurich, and then executive MBA on Gallen, and I think that's quite about it.
Yes. So about entrepreneurship, how did you get into it?
Was doing the MBA at St. Gallen with a couple of friends here, and then we draw the first concepts on paper about the business model we are now running, and then finally we decided to step in and go fully.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look back at your career, which was probably quite extensive before the consulting, what would you say helps you the most today? Now running a startup?
I think it's the conceptual work dedicated to really analysis and then to develop strategies, but also to have a constant process of situational awareness. So you look at the market, the concurrences, your potential clients, regulations, and so on, and you're responsible for the situational awareness all the time. I think that's maybe the most important task, especially if you deal with such highly regulated industry as healthcare is. You have to constantly analyze and update your situational awareness.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about your startup, Xatena. Maybe you can give everybody a quick pitch so we're all on the same page.
Well, Xatena is a procurement solution, a marketplace in one, specialized for the healthcare industry, for hospitals. So hospitals digitize their procurement processes down and upstream on Xatena, and on the other hand, we have the suppliers who digitize their sales processes on Xatena. So we match demand and offer on our platform.
So when you look, let's say, on your client, who would be your ideal client and what are they doing on your marketplace?
We have about a dozen hospitals who are our clients, but not only clients by contract, but also they have implemented our system in their organization. Means they use not only the market processes, but other procurement processes as well here. Since 1.5 years, and we have a realized transaction volume from 50 million Swiss francs so far, and we have cited a dozen hospitals here. We have 220, 230 suppliers registered on Xatena and regularly using our platform.
What did you see was the main, let's say, issue that you were trying to solve with Xatena?
Well, there's not only one issue. There are like a couple issues, like all procurement solutions. We have different processes on the platform, and we help hospitals to digitize them. So there is transparency on products, on data, but also efficiency on processes. But then we also have other problems that we solve in security or in the safety of the supply chain, all in the benefits for the patients at the end. So we can say if this product complies to certain regulations or not.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at, say, your vision, like now we talked about the problem, what would it be that you would say, like, hey, if I could choose, like, what, let's say, your space looks like in 20 years, what would that be, the vision for your company?
whether you look at the automotive industry, aerospace, or healthcare may be a little behind, but we're stepping up, will be supply chain 4.0. That means all the informations you can get and that are needed get transformed into your supply chain, so you have a constant overview, single pane of glass about your supplies coming to your company, if they comply, if they come in time, and so on. And then finally, what will happen is that the supply chain gets mixed with the patient, means with the reimbursement system. It works under the title value-based procurement. So it means finally also the products that go through the supply chain need also to fulfill the patient's needs at the end. So there will also be a change in the reimbursement system. We'll strongly look if this specific implant brought the results that it promised, and so on.
When you look at, let's say, the overall, let's say, healthcare space, what would you say are, let's say, the biggest trends at the moment?
Actually, we're working on the supply side of the healthcare. On the healthcare overall, it's of course e-health. On the stationary side, it means e-health. It's with the electronic patient documentation, EPD. So that's maybe the biggest change. It needs a lot of investments in infrastructure, telematic infrastructure, and so on. And on the other hand, I think it's much more regulation on the supply chain side that enhances and you have to cope with. And then the third big trend in the industry is the economic pressure that raises with each year. If you look around in the market, there are fusions or takeovers, M&As, but there are also hospitals that get closed.
Now, you recently announced a funding round. I saw also like one of the investors is a former guest of the show. Equity Pitcher was once on my show. Okay. Tell me, I mean, before you found the actual investors, I believe you went also through a stage where it was probably not so easy to find right away investors. How was that process for you to find investors and dealing with the no?
Yeah, actually, I have to add, we just closed right now, we're right now closing another round. Yes. So the one you're talking is already behind us. Okay, fine. We're already a step further. I have to admit the first time was pretty hard because most of us, we had jobs and well-paid jobs. We had to leave and we ramped up successfully into the company, but step by step. The very first round was a usual FFF round and yeah, as you do it.
Yes. Now when you say like, now you have, like let's say you're already up to the second round, but like when you look back at like now your cap table, how did like the investors add value to you besides just capital?
If you look at our board, we have 2 board members. Well, I mentioned them first. Many other investors contribute to our business too. Stefan Heizmann, who's one of the most well-known fintech entrepreneurs here in Switzerland, and he's on our board, and he gives us really very good advice on how to go forward into this market. Not especially to healthcare, but just it's tech at the end, and also how to address for investors. And then there is Ole Wiesinger, former CEO of the Hirslanden Group, who's in our board as well, and he has another perspective on our business model, that of a very successful hospital CEO, and which is much more advanced than most of the hospitals in Switzerland, who still have lower EBIT margins and try to cope with the rising economic pressure.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at the last couple of years, or like since you launched Xatena, what would you say were your biggest achievements so far, and what is ahead of you in the next couple of weeks and months?
We know a lot about the German market, and we have very good relations now there, and we have some hospitals there already send us the signals that they want to adopt our solution, our system, because they don't have something similar in Germany. And so I think this POC, proof of concept for the German market, will be one of the most important steps in the next months or next year or so. And what we have achieved, I mean, was the going live with the platform and the market adoption for a system in a market that is hard to breach, hospital market. It's a little conservative market, and it took some time, but I think we were very successful, and we have some of the well-known hospitals in Switzerland as our clients, so paying clients.
Paying
so
clients,
That's
very
good.
good.
Yeah.
Now let's look a little bit about like the local ecosystem here in Switzerland. Like, do you feel the local ecosystem, the startup ecosystem here in Switzerland, and maybe specifically here in Zurich, is thriving, or how do you feel like it's supporting you in your entrepreneurial journey?
I cannot compare it to others because I have no...
Well, so let's make it a description.
I think there are several organizations, they do an awesome job, they support you. I want to mention two there. There's Swiss healthcare startups and there's the MedTech cluster Switzerland. For us, two very relevant players in this market, which support us very much, Stefan Leuthold and Jericho Thomas, maybe other partners for your interview. If you're very specific in this branch, in this industry, you need to have also those players who are related to you, who bring you added value.
Sure. But what would be that added value that these organizations brought to you?
Network, finally network. That's what they do, and they do it on a very good level, on a high level. So if they see opportunities, they bring it to us actually. And it's not only about going to shows and pitching and so on. It's really a lot of bilateral communication between us. And they say, yeah, there is an opportunity. Maybe you got to talk with this guy or that. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you see also maybe things that like you could use some help for, like especially that you feel like like the local ecosystem could be better?
I personally think there are some organizations, they make too much noise about it and they consume too much energy from the startups. I do completely understand that all investors and many of these organizations, whatever there are, they like to have these big fancy pitching events and so on, but it's also very time consuming, really takes resources, but I understand why they're doing it.
So one of the biggest, critiques always in Switzerland is like it's very hard to find investors. Do you feel like institutionals were hard to find?
Well, they are. I would rather say it depends on the development cycle you are with your company. I would prefer to say that if you need seed money in the very early stage and maybe early stage money, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Then it's difficult here. I mean, you get lucky. We had the luck, but that's hard work. And as I saw the investors and talking with most of the investors, most of them fix on Series A where the risks are lower. Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Also.
If you look back, how did you get your first paying client?
Convincing him with value and relation. And third one, I would say it's not about convincing, it's also about building trust that you can deliver.
What are some tips for balancing work and life?
Oh, there are no. I have a young family, 2 small kids, so it's just hard. I think it's much more easier if you're coming direct from the university. Maybe you gonna have a little lack of experience, but on the other hand, I don't have tips. Just if you have a relation, family or partner, whatever, just be careful.
Okay, good. What do you think is the most important character in an entrepreneur?
Consistency. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, there's so many opportunities you have all the time, and you always have to shape and to focus and to focus and to focus and to focus again. And there are so many opportunities on the way that go up and go, and it shows here and here, and you have to really be on the track and find your track again and again and again. And yeah, it's just consistency to finally. For me, it could be something different.
What is most important to you in an investor?
Trust, patience, and that he also informs himself and gives him into the company, that he also helps us with his relations and so on. That's something that you cannot measure in financement or in money. That's something that really helps you, the network that it brings with to grow your company.
What traits do you look for when you hire someone?
Everybody looks, I think it's more a cultural fit with the team, but it's hard to say. It's nothing you can read out of his CV, or it's a little gut feeling. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you understand, but
yeah, for sure. No.
And skills are written, and you can check and everything. But finally, I think it's if the chemistry goes along or not.
What do you think is your best selling strategy?
There is a book that's called Crossing the Chasm. It's a Silicon Valley Bible.
Silicon Valley, you live by that Bible.
Yeah. Whether you have like the perfect business plan or idea or not, if you feel like you want to really to try to get independent and to try an entrepreneurial step in your life, just do it.
Just do it. Well, that's a very, very good way to end the show. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much, everybody who tuned in to episode 162 of the Startup Show. I really appreciate it. Make sure you stay a few more seconds so you see who is up next week. And have a great Monday, and I'll see you next week. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Eike Fessini. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lucabox. I've been asked many questions by Cedric, starting from what it's like to start, the business in your own apartment, what it's like to work while you start your business, and many interesting questions more. So if you want to find it out, tune in next week.